Hey, how are you? This is Aaron McKay, and today we are back with another installment of Bird Be Gone's Ask an Expert, and I am joined by my co-host Jeff Watts and Chris Fields. How are you gentlemen doing?
Doing great today.
Doing great. How are you doing?
I am doing good. Things are mellowing out a little bit for us at home. The kids are back into school after the summer break, which is, it definitely feels different with the pandemic, but it's definitely nice to have them back in school for sure.
Oh yes.
Yep.
So today we are talking about a topic that I know is near and dear to the hearts of everyone here at Bird Be Gone. We're going to be talking about one of our number one sellers, commercial bird net or heavy duty bird netting. And the way we're going to approach the topic is first we're going to talk about when you know it's time to actually suggest netting to your customer to solve a bird problem, and then we're going to transition into talking about hey, if you are going to be stepping into your first netting job, these are the primary things you need to be aware of. So the first question would be, when do you know it's time to net?
Well, I mean, most obvious is, and we always talk about Mike, right? If they're nesting, you need netting, right? So, no, it usually requires, the bird has embedded itself into that property, nesting in that area. That's when our regular physical deterrents of ledge products are sometimes may become ineffective, because the birds are going to be more aggressive and more desperate to get back into that nesting area and rebuild. So we need something solid, exclusion. We need something, and there's other exclusion products out there. We can talk about it a different day.
Yeah, sure.
The wire mesh or the slope or siding for that matter.
That's good.
A lot of different options, but we need to exclude those nesting birds. Anything that's sheltered, we need to seal off from those birds.
And I know you mentioned sheltered, but for some people that are newer to the industry, they may not necessarily even know what that means when you're talking about a building structure. So where are typical places where you are seeing birds building nests, say like pigeons or sparrows or starlings or what have you?
You got loading docks, you got canopies, you have inside the signs, the letters of the signs. Did I say warehouses, hangars?
Yeah.
Any covered area, pretty much, that can provide shelter from the elements for those birds.
Yep. And that netting is basically establishing a physical barrier that it prevents the birds from gaining access to that nesting area. That's how it works. It's probably the most effective bird control device we have if you are trying to permanently solve a situation. And the netting, because it has been used for such a long time in the industry, it's just a trusted solution. Oftentimes, if you are dealing with, seasoned facility managers or operations managers, they're aware of netting as a potential solution for birds. But because netting has been used for so long and the technology has changed over the years, netting lasts a really, really long time. If you do a good job establishing your perimeter hardware and install that net, particularly in sheltered areas, you can see netting jobs last well in excess of 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, right? So it very well be a permanent solution. All right, so now we're going to transition the conversation and gear it more towards individuals that are offering services to their customers that maybe haven't offered netting as an option before. So Jeff, Chris, if you're talking to someone that's walking into their first potential net job, what are you encouraging them to look for?
Chris?
Obviously you're looking for the first thing you want to look for is the building material, what you're going to be attaching to. If it's concrete, steel, wood, stucco with wood framing behind it, you want to make sure you know what you're attaching to, because you're going to want to price out the right attachments for that. Another thing to look for is what your access is going to be like. Are you going to be able to do this off of a ladder, or are you going to need a 40-foot lift or a scissor lift or something like that? So a couple of things to think about when you're pricing out a job.
Yep.
Yeah, and you also have the bird species, right? So most of the time I'm going to recommend the 3/4 inch mesh.
Yeah.
Just you're going to do all the labor. The labor is the most the largest part of that job.
Yeah.
Anyways, the
Yep.
labor and the hardware is about the same. So use the 3/4. Make sure you keep all species of birds out of there. There are some instances where we're going to recommend the 2-inch over the 3/4 inch, like on top of a gas station canopy or large open horizontal net jobs, or snow conditions, ice conditions, where we don't want the snow or ice build up on the 3/4 inch. But most of the time, I'm going to probably seal it off permanently. You don't want to seal off pigeons and then 6 months later have sparrows or swallows moving there. So
Right.
so that comes into play. Like I said, access is huge, right? We need to determine, because that's going to dictate what our labor rate's going to be.
Yep.
If I have to use ladders, I'm going to work a lot slower than if I have a boom lift up there, or if I'm right on a parapet wall where I can just walk right down easily, get to stuff. So yeah, access is key.
Yep. Yeah, so we've also we talked about the mesh size, we talked about the type of structure, we've talked about access, but we also kind of blew by another option with net. We actually have a couple different options as far as color. We have stone, white, and black. The primary differentiation being on the warranty side. So black, because the ingredients on the black netting includes a raw material called carbon black. It actually gives it more resistance to UV. So there's a longer warranty on the black netting. The stone and the white, if you need to match the aesthetics or structure based on your customer's request, it's just a nice option to be able to have. But in our experience, we typically recommend people do use the black netting because it ends up looking better over the long-term life of that net installation job. But there are two primary types of material for commercial netting. So maybe one of you guys want to describe the difference between polyethylene and polypropylene net.
You want me to handle that one, Chris?
Yeah.
Traditionally, or the HDPE, the polyethylene net, has been the industry standard for 20 plus years. It's just the most common used, very strong, durable net. But man, it's probably been 15 years now, 10, 15 years that we started bringing in the polypropylene net, the heavy-duty polypropylene net, which is it's just a different processing, manufacturing process. Basically, it's a woven net instead of a multi-stranded, twisted, knotted net. So it's a little bit softer on the hands. So I know the installers sometimes like, if you've ever installed a net before and you're pulling on that net for a couple days, your knuckles are going to get swollen up and everything like that. So the knotless is a little bit softer, but it tests just as strong. Same price. We can still offer the 10-year warranty on the black nets. You just have fewer options. You have the 3/4 inch net in as large pieces as 50 by 100s. With the traditional knotted net, we have panels that are 200 by 200. We can go bigger, if we need to. So you have more options and different colors with the knotted polyethylene net as well. So that's the main difference between the two. But once it's installed nice and tight, you can't really tell the difference too much. Same price, same warranties, everything like that.
Yeah, that knotted stuff too. I mean, I would say the knotless is a little more suspect to abrasion. If you're gonna have any sort of danger of abrasion damage on the netting, the softer knotless stuff might wear a little bit quicker than the knotted stuff. So another thing to look out for when looking at the type of netting you're using.
Yep. And I know, Chris, you mentioned earlier about being aware of the type of building material so you can pick the right hardware. Just a quick note: we do have alternative hardware finishes available as well. So we have galvanized stainless. We actually have black hardware as well. So the actual hardware kind of blends in more seamlessly to the installation of black netting.
In both galvanized and stainless steel. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. It's always a great option to be able to, because oftentimes the customers are going to be concerned about the overall aesthetics of the net installation. So if you can't communicate it to them that the hardware is going to make it even less apparent that netting is installed, that might actually be the thing that pushes the sale of that job over the edge. But again, we're talking about first-time net installers. Where do you typically see people go wrong, or a job, their first experience with net go south?
Yes, this is the most labor-intensive product out there, right?
Yep.
So a lot of things can go wrong, and they usually do on the first job. So it's getting into it for the wrong reasons. You know, a lot of guys get into bird netting because they see the dollar signs. They
Yep.
know it's big bucks, very profitable business. And it requires a lot of hardware and labor and all that good stuff. So a lot of times guys will underestimate their labor,
Yep.
and so, or their lift costs and all that stuff. So unfortunately, we get a lot of guys that learn the hard way, and,
Yep.
and they're not profitable on the first job.
Yep.
They have to write it off as a training experience,
Yep.
type of deal. So just because you want it done right, you want it to look good. It's your first job. You're going to go slower than you normally would.
Yep.
And you don't learn some of the tricks of the trade. You might not have the right tools for the job yet. Having the right tools is huge,
It's massive.
right? So
Yep.
a ladder is going to slow you down compared to a lift.
Yep.
A drilling holes every 12 to 18 inches instead of shooting with a Hilti pin is going to take you a lot more time.
Right.
So not having something, you got to run out to the hardware store to pick up something, or we got to call Bird Be Gone and have them overnight hog rings to us because we ran out of hog rings.
Right.
You know, that starts eating into
Yeah.
your profits. So that's all. Just having everything available to you and pre-ordering everything, having it ready to go before you schedule the job.
Yep.
That's the biggest downfall of
Yep.
what guys do.
Yeah, and I think oftentimes
Yeah.
we get invited into the conversation after it's like in mid-process, right? Someone might call and ask for a quote and not necessarily solicit our input or feedback. They'll get into the job and realize they've kind of hog-ringed themselves into a corner, and they need our help. But netting is more complex. There are more risks, but there are definitely way more rewards. You can make a lot of money installing net. So invite us into that conversation early, right? Because we can help you identify those pitfalls to make sure your first experience with net is as profitable as it possibly can be. Any other comment?
I mean, real quick, one thing that I always say to guys, when they're jumping into netting or something of that nature, or it's a contract or something like, oh, I can do that. It does take skill. I say, netting is not rocket science, but there is skill involved, and it is, the more experience you have, the faster it's going to go. So, the process may seem simple, but you're just going to want to make sure that you've that you've taken everything into account there before you start.
Yep, that's good. Any other consistent areas where you see people go south? I can think of a couple, but wanted to see if any are coming to mind for you guys.
Make sure you order enough. I know I already talked about this, but there's a reason why we actually give our guys an extra foot on each side when we're custom cutting nets.
Yep.
Because we don't want you to be short.
Yep.
Our net's extremely strong. You can pull on this all day long, but it's not going to stretch more than what we cut it.
Right.
So if you measure a footprint of a building and order that to that exact size, if you got to go around something or make any cuts in that net, or if it's at an angle, you're 12 inches short on here. Man, you're not going to be a happy camper trying to make that work, or
Right.
adding a separate piece of net to it. You can always cut off an extra foot off that net.
Right.
That's easy. So go big on that. That's the biggest downfall I see most guys do it. Some guys will get overwhelmed with a job if it's like a 100,000 square foot warehouse.
Right.
Well, that much netting, there's weight to it, right? So it's gonna sag. We don't want it to sag out in the middle, so we're going to put support cables out there. So if we're going to have a cabling system supporting that, we have a grid up there at first. Break it down into a whole bunch of small jobs.
Yep.
Yep. Just treat it as, instead of getting overwhelmed as I got 100,000 square foot to put up 2,500 at a time.
Yep.
It's more hog ringing. Might be more visual if you're using the silver hog rings, but it's a lot more manageable. The net's not in your way down the side of the
Right.
lift and all that
Yeah.
good stuff. So
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I run into a lot.
Yeah. What about Chris? You see guys go wrong with the spacing of their intermediate fasteners?
Yeah, we always try and recommend, every 18 inches with your fasteners. That way when you're tightening up the cable, you're not going to get much space in between the wall and the cable. You see guys try and, I don't want to say cheap out on it, but they go every 2 feet or 3 feet or
That's
something
where they
just to
start
kind
cutting
of lessen
corners.
the labor and everything. And once you're cranking on that turnbuckle and you get it tight, you get 2-3 feet in between there. You're going to get a lot of space in between the wall and the cable, and a sparrow is just going to go right through there.
Yep. And another consistent one that I've seen is not necessarily being aware of access issues. So obviously when you install a net, that net is going to create a plane that you can't get behind. So is there anything behind the plane of the net that's going to need to be accessed for maintenance of the building? Whether it's an AC unit, a light fixture that needs to have a bulb replaced, sprinkler system that needs to be tested annually. These are things that you need to think through when you're installing net, because there's nothing worse than getting a call from your customer who said, "Hey, someone cut through my net," and you find out that it was an electrician or a building maintenance person that just cut through the net because they were trying to do their job and they didn't know who to talk to.
Yeah, we've got zippers like anywhere from 6 inches up to, we can go as long as you want, really. You're going to have to wait if they get over about 20 feet, but we've got zippers for just about anything. Different types of zippers, jacket style that open at both ends as well. You can create flaps if people need to get through it. So, we've got, everything you need for that as far as for servicemen and people like that to access it.
Right, that's good. So any other parting comments on netting? Again, this is an introductory video. Netting is a complex product. It's an amazing product, highly effective and highly profitable for you who's providing services for your customers. But any parting shots for people?
I would just say, obviously we have our net videos out there. I would just check that out as far as a basic overview of what it should look like, some of the different components, and we can discuss that. But really, give us a call. That's what we all do on a daily basis. Yep. Not only for newbies, but guys who've been doing it for a long time still call us up and say, "Hey, Jeff, I'm netting off a canopy 40 by 40. What do I need?" Type of deal. Well, we'll ask for pictures if available, and then also actual dimensions. More importantly, what surface materials, like Chris was talking about earlier, so we can discuss. So pictures help us out a great deal, because every job is different, right? So we need to know about heaters and lights and roll-up doors and fire suppression systems, all those things. So pictures do speak 1,000 words, and that really helps us at least open the dialogue so we can start talking about the number one question we get a lot also is, how much is it going to cost?
Yeah.
How long is it going to take and stuff like that. That's tough because every job is different. So the more information you can provide us with, the more we can do that. I hate to give out a formula. It's $3 a square foot. It's just you can't give that. You can't give that because is it long? Is it access? All different things come into play. So the more you can provide us, the better we can come up with. We can easily come up with a list of necessary products. That's an easy thing we can do. But if you need other consulting things, just give any of us a call. We'd love to help you out with that.
Yeah, that's one thing we always hear is like, just give it. Just give me a ballpark. What's the ballpark price? And like Jeff said, every job is different. And when you're just jumping into it and you're going into your first net job, we see it. We have our Bird Be Gone universities that we hold in times that are not in pandemic, but we hold those every month, and you see guys looking at this netting, and like Jeff said earlier, they get the dollar signs in their eyes, and guys who have no experience at all, they want to jump into, say, 50,000 square feet with all these obtrusions coming down and everything like that. My advice would be, like, get your feet wet first. Start small and build your experience up from there. That's just one thing that I've seen in the past is guys just jumping into things that are a little too big, for their experience and not pricing it correctly. Get your feet wet first and get that experience, and you'll build up to those bigger jobs.
Yep. That's good. Yeah. So I think just to kind of wrap it up, I think if possible, if you don't know what you're doing or you're stepping into your first job, involve us as early as possible so we can make sure you have all the products and tools you need when you need them. And so your first experience can be successful. But let's say you're watching this video because you have a job tomorrow, or you're literally in the middle of a job, because we know that's going to happen. Call us, right? We have the capability to do custom cut nets same day and get them out. So if you're in a pinch and you need help, we are here to help you, because we want to make sure you guys are delivering a good product and making your customers happy. So Jeff, Chris, really appreciate the time today. It's a complex topic, but you guys were definitely able to share some wisdom. So thanks for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. See you guys.
See ya.
Bye.